Yesterday I talked about Marvel's Atlantis, so today I figure it's fitting I talk about DC's. Marvel and DC have almost the exact same beat-for-beat backstory for Atlantis. It was a sunken supercontinent, super advanced city that some shit hit it and they sunk into the ground and then mermaids found it and went all lit. That's my house now. And sometimes those mermaids were like some of the original people who lived in the kingdom, and then the kingdom sank and then it turned out they could breathe water and they went, oh, cool, I'll just keep living here, I guess. And then sometimes the mermaids are just from other places. It's sunken fish city. So today I'm going to tell you how my Atlantis works for my DC cinematic universe. It is the end of the Greek pantheon thousands of years ago. Less and less people are worshipping the Greek gods, and violence is breaking out against some of the more faithful. Key among them, Atlantis, or Poseidonus, the capital city of the worshippers of Poseidon. This city was rich, the city was advanced, all because of direct patronage from their god Poseidon. But the city came under attack by people jealous of their opulence. Seeing what could be the very end of his own worship, Poseidon decided to save the city of the people who worshipped him. Summoning all of the power that he had, he moved the entire city, split it from the land, and brought it into the middle of the ocean, and then he divvied up his own power, his own soul, and imbued that power to every single person inside the city, instantaneously transforming them into humanoids that could survive underwater. Doing that, Poseidon gave up his life to save the lives of his worshippers. Poseidon's son, Triton, would become the new king of this sunken city, showing the people how to live underwater, showing them what their new lives will be like. And then later, Triton's son, Neptune, took over the city. Over the generations, the city's population grew, more cities outside of it were established, and that's how we get the established 7 kingdoms under the ocean that we have from the comics as well. And eventually Neptune's child took over, their child, their child, their child, leading in an unbroken line all the way down to Arthur Curry of Atlantis. So instead of Atlantis being a super technology advanced city from like 10,000 years ago that then sunk and then mermaids found, I'm just directly basing it off of Poseidon literally made this city. And it's an unbroken line all the way down to Aquaman. And that is how Atlantis works in my DC cinematic universe. This week, y'all are getting a deep dive to how Atlantis works in my DC cinematic universe. Atlantis is the underwater country consisting of these 8 kingdoms: Crastinus, Shiurus, Poseidonus, Tritonus, Zebel, Ninauve, Neptunos, and Lemuria. All of these kingdoms have their own kings, queens, presidents, whatever form of government they form, but they all serve the High King, the one who sits on the throne of Poseidonus, the capital city of the Kingdom of Atlantis. And starting off, we will talk about the High Queen of Atlantis, Atlanna. Atlanna is a direct descendant of Poseidon from when he started the kingdom. That video has already been made. You can go check it out in the playlist. When she came of age, she was married off to a lord of the kingdom named Orvax Marius. But Orvax was an abusive piece of shit. He was a true monster, and she couldn't take it anymore, and so she ran away. With the help of Vulko, who is the head of the Atlantean Royal Guard, she escaped to the surface. Vulko covered up the entire thing because he truly cared about this woman. She was one of his closest friends growing up, and he wanted to make sure that she would be safe away from anywhere this man could reach. And after escaping to the surface, after a couple of years, she would meet a man named Thomas Curry. He was a lighthouse keeper of the town that she washed up in. They fell in love, they got married, and they had a son, Arthur Curry. And their life was amazing and beautiful. Unfortunately for the Kingdom of Atlantis, Orvax was now running it unchecked. He had become the High King since his wife, the High Queen, had disappeared. But because of how monstrous and hated he was killed by Vulko. You see, in my DC cinematic universe, the head of the Atlantean Royal Guard has one very important duty. It is their job to kill the king if that is the will of the people. It is their form of checks and balances in a dictatorship. And eventually the outrage in Atlantis grew too much, and Vulko was ordered by the will of the people to kill Orvax, which left the high throne empty. It would fall to Orvax and Atlanna's son, Orm, but Orm was only 8 years old. And so Vulko knew what he had to do. Vulko swam back up to the surface and found Atlanna in her home with Thomas. He told her everything, and she realized she had to go back for the good of her people. And so she left, and she left their son Arthur in Thomas's hands to raise. Now, back under the sea, trying to take care of her people, she would also try and rebuild a relationship with the son that she had with this man, even though she had abandoned him for 2 years. And we'll talk about Orm later.